Imagine someone who never shows you their real face. On the surface, they are charming, smart, maybe even inspirational. But behind the scenes, every word, every compliment, every apology is calculated for one purpose: control. Psychologists call this Machiavellianism, a dark personality style built on manipulation, cold strategy, and ruthless self-interest. In today's video, you're going to learn 7 clear signs that you're dealing with a Machiavellian personality. We're not talking about normal selfishness or someone having a bad day. We're talking about people who see relationships as a chessboard and you as a piece to be moved. If you recognize these signs early, you can protect your mental health, your time, and your energy. Stay until the end, because the last sign is the one most people ignore until it's too late. Machiavellianism is a personality trait named after Niccolo Machiavelli, the political writer who argued that the end justifies the means when it comes to power. In modern psychology, it describes people who are highly strategic, manipulative, and focused on their own interests, with very little concern for morality or the feelings of others. It is one of the 3 traits that make up the dark triad, together with narcissism and psychopathy, all of which share a core of coldness, exploitation, and low empathy. A Machiavellian person may not be outwardly aggressive or unstable. In fact, they often look calm, reasonable, and mature, which makes them even more dangerous. In this video, we're focusing on how Machiavellian traits show up in everyday relationships, friendships, family, romance, and even at work, so you can recognize them early and respond intelligently.
The first sign: they see people as tools, not as human beings. A Machiavellian person focuses heavily on their own goals: power, money, status, or influence, and they treat others as stepping stones to get there. They believe the world is a harsh, competitive place where only the cunning survive, so manipulation feels normal and justified to them. In conversations, notice how everything seems to circle back to what benefits them. They may be overly interested in your connections, your skills, your secrets, but not in your actual feelings or well-being. Once you no longer serve a purpose, they quickly lose interest, or even discard you completely, often without guilt. Example: you help a colleague get promoted, introduce them to contacts, and support them for months. Once they get what they want, they stop replying to messages, act distant, or even talk badly about you to others to protect their own image. That cold, transactional style is a red flag. The defense? Start asking yourself, if I stopped being useful to this person today, would they still be here? If the honest answer is no, then stop investing emotionally and keep the relationship strictly practical.
The second sign: they are strategic manipulators who play the long game. Machiavellian personalities don't just react, they plan. They prefer subtle influence over open conflict, and they think several steps ahead in social situations. They study your weaknesses, your insecurities, and your desires, then use them to move you in the direction they want. This can look like guilt trips, calculated compliments, veiled threats, or selectively sharing information to shape how you see reality. For example, if they know you hate conflict, they may raise their voice just enough for you to back down, then later act calm and rational so you feel like the unreasonable one. Or they might accidentally mention that other people would love the opportunity they are giving you, so you feel pressured to agree. The defense? Pay attention not just to what they say once, but to patterns over time. Ask yourself, who benefits if I believe this? And is this person always steering me toward choices that help them more than me? When every interaction ends with them winning and you compromising, that is not an accident.
The third sign: they lie easily and twist reality when it suits them. Machiavellian personalities are comfortable using deception, half-truths, and omission to get what they want. Honesty is not a moral value for them. It is a strategy, and they will only tell the truth if it helps their agenda. In relationships,
This often shows up as double lives, constantly changing stories, or revisionist history. They rewrite what happened to make themselves look good and you look unreasonable. When you confront them, they may gaslight you by saying you are too sensitive, imagining things, or remembering wrong, even when you are completely sure of the facts.
They promise something very clearly, maybe about money, loyalty, or behavior, and later deny they ever said it, or claim you misunderstood. They might even accuse you of twisting their words, flipping the script so that you end up apologizing. The defense. Stop relying on verbal promises from people who repeatedly distort reality. When possible, keep written records of agreements and test their integrity with small commitments before trusting them with bigger ones. If someone consistently makes you question your memory or sanity, step back.
The fourth sign. Their charm feels powerful, but unstable. Machiavellian people often present as very charming, confident, and persuasive, especially at the beginning of a relationship. They know how to say exactly what you want to hear, mirror your interests, and make you feel special, because charm is one of their favorite tools of influence. In romantic relationships, this can look like love bombing, intense attention, big promises about the future, and dramatic gestures that come very fast. But once they feel they have you, the charm becomes selective, turned on to control you and turned off to punish you. When you agree with them and give them what they want, they are sweet, generous, and affectionate. When you assert a boundary or say no, they suddenly become cold, distant, or critical. They learn that by switching between charm and withdrawal, they can train your behavior. The defense? Real character is consistent over time. If someone's treatment of you swings dramatically depending on whether you're useful or obedient, their kindness is not genuine. It's a lever. Do not judge them by how charming they are at their best, but by how respectful they are at their worst. The fifth sign. Underneath the performance, they are emotionally cold. Machiavellian traits are strongly linked to low empathy and a detached, unemotional style. They can intellectually understand how you feel, but they don't genuinely share your pain or joy unless it somehow affects their goals. You may notice that when you are struggling, they seem annoyed, impatient, or bored, unless they can leverage your pain to gain more control. On the other hand, when you are doing well, they might subtly undermine you, make cutting jokes, or shift the attention back to themselves, because your success doesn't serve them. You open up about a difficult family issue. Instead of compassion, they quickly change the topic, minimize your experience, or turn it into a story about their own suffering. Later, they might use your vulnerability as a weapon in an argument. You're unstable. Remember what you told me about your past? The defense. Stop giving deep emotional access to people who repeatedly show shallow or selfish reactions to your feelings. Healthy relationships are built on mutual care, not just information exchange. If someone's empathy always feels strategic, protect your inner world. The sixth sign. They almost never take real responsibility. When something goes wrong, a Machiavellian person will blame circumstances, other people, or even you. Anyone but themselves. Admitting fault feels dangerous to them because it threatens their power and control. They are masters of excuses, justifications, and story spinning. If they hurt you, they might say you made them do it, or that they had no choice because of stress, trauma, or other people. Over time, you start to feel like you're always the problem, even when their behavior is clearly toxic. They cheat, lie, or break a promise, and when confronted, they focus entirely on your reaction. You're overreacting. You're paranoid. Or if you trusted me more, this wouldn't be an issue. The conversation gets twisted until you're defending your feelings instead of discussing their actions. The defense? Watch how they handle small mistakes. Do they apologize clearly and change their behavior? Or do they minimize, deflect, and attack? A person who can never genuinely say, "I was wrong, and here is how I will fix it," is choosing manipulation over growth.
The seventh sign, and perhaps the most dangerous, they move slowly toward control and isolation. Machiavellian personalities often try to control who you talk to, what information you see, and how you spend your time and money. They might frame this as caring, protecting you, or knowing what's best, but the result is that your world shrinks and their power grows. Common tactics include criticizing or undermining your friends and family so you pull away from them, monitoring your messages or social media, controlling shared finances, or making you feel guilty when you spend time away from them. Emotional abuse, such as constant criticism, silent treatment, or threats to leave, becomes a way to keep you anxious and dependent.
You mention meeting a friend, and they respond with jealousy, accusations, or emotional withdrawal. Over time, to avoid drama, you simply stop seeing people. Then they complain that you'd be lost without me, forgetting that they are the reason your support system disappeared. The defense. Notice if your life feels smaller and more anxious since this person arrived. Healthy relationships may set boundaries, but they do not cut you off from support or make you feel powerless. If you suspect you're in a controlling or abusive dynamic, quietly rebuild outside support and consider professional help. You cannot change a Machiavellian personality by loving them harder, explaining more, or sacrificing yourself. Research suggests that these traits are relatively stable over time and strongly linked to patterns of exploitation and emotional abuse in relationships. Your power lies in 3 moves: awareness, boundaries, and distance. Awareness means naming what is actually happening instead of explaining it away. Boundaries mean clearly limiting what you will accept, especially around honesty, respect, and control. Distance means understanding that sometimes the healthiest decision is to step back or leave, even if your emotions are still attached. If you recognize several of these signs in someone close to you, you're not crazy, weak, or overreacting. You might simply be dealing with a person who is playing a very different game than you are. If this video helped you recognize any patterns in your life, let me know in the comments which sign hit you the hardest. I read your stories, and many of you are recovering from years of subtle manipulation. It's not your fault. For more dark psychology and relationship awareness content, subscribe to Psychology for You, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who needs a quiet wake-up call. Remember, smart does not mean cynical. You can be kind, empathetic, and still refuse to be someone else's pawn.